you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Iron Lady Secret that makes official. Welcome to 60 years and 2,700 episodes of the Chris Voss Show. And we just keep making more. We're probably going to have 3,000 episodes this year. Should be some interesting things. And as long as a bus doesn't hit me and run me over, there will be more shows. There's probably some other things that can happen to me, but we're not gonna invoke any sort of potential it might have by cursing it by mentioning any of the things that can happen to me. But you probably all seen those movies. One of those movies where everyone gets killed really badly in them. It's there's some sort of fate thing. Anyway, that's not this movie, folks. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. Hey, all my improvs on the in-roll can't be funny. That's just the way it is, folks. LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss. But I promise you, there'll be more funny jokes to come in the show.
Opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today's featured author comes to us from bookstolifemarketing.co.uk. With expert publishing to strategic marketing, they help authors reach their audience and maximize their book's success.
Today we had an amazing young lady on the show. We're going to be talking about her hot new book called Stories After School, out on paperback April 7th, 2021 by Madelyn Peters Olson. She was a 50-year career teacher. And as everyone knows, my mom and sister were teachers. And I love teachers, not just because they're my mom and my sister, but because they do so many glorious things to the world. And they help lift it, improve it, make it better. And, you know, I've seen people come up to my mom and go on about how wonderful she was and how much they changed her life. And sometimes kind of funny. She has the bad kids that she didn't like in school because they were kind of rotten come up to her and tell her how they decide to be better. And she's like, wow, I thought you'd be in prison by now. No, she doesn't say that. Anyway, moving on. So we're going to get talking with Madelyn. And Madelyn had a childhood dream of becoming a teacher. She made it a reality. It lasted for 50 years. Welcome to the show, Madelyn. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
You like my funny stories or my lame stories? Either you can pick either one of teaching and all that stuff. Have you had that happen where you've sometimes had people come up from the teaching and see you as adults and you're like, oh, that kid made it?
I do. And it is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that they'd made it.
Yeah. Truth be told, that's what most of my teachers think when they see me an adult. People, it's impossible. Anyway, so Madelyn, give us any .coms. Where do you want people to find you on the interwebs?
I'm on Facebook under Madelyn Olson.
So give us a 30,000 overview, ma'am, of what's in your new book.
I just have stories that I gathered through all my years of teaching. I didn't use the students' real names, but they would know who they are. Book. But I have been a storyteller in the classroom all my life, and my grandson is the one who said, Grandma, why don't you write a book? And I said, oh, I could never do that. He said, I think you could. And he bugged me enough that I finally took advantage of the pandemic to go anywhere. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to write a book. And I just sat down at the computer and typed and typed and typed.
Storytelling, you know, we like to say on the show is the owner's manual to life. It's there was in Africa, there used to be the ancient griots who would be the human keeper of the stories of the tribe and the lore of the tribe and all that sort of good stuff. And they would have to keep in their heads because there wasn't, you know, in the rainforest, it's a little hard to write down stuff on paper. It tends to get wet. And I don't know what they did when a lion ate the librarian, but, you know, what happened to the history of our thing? Well, we only know what happened the last 20 years because some lion ate the thing. But this is beautiful in telling stories and stuff. And COVID was such a great time. So would you call this a memoir of your history and experience.
I didn't know it was a memoir until I took a book to a bookshop in Iowa City. She read it and she said, "This is a wonderful memoir." And that's the first time I really had thought about it being called that.
And, well, it's a story of your life. Now, does it span your whole life, or is there maybe more books coming that are pieces, or you probably have an endless amount of stories being a teacher?
I do. In fact, your mom probably could write a book too. I've had many teachers say that they have so many stories too, and they could all write a book. They all have stories.
I pay my teachers not to write a book because I don't want them telling stories about me. I was a Gen Xer, so I was lucky enough to live in the age where no one knew what you did when you were younger.
Right.
Unless it's on the criminal docket somewhere, but I don't have that either. So I got that going for me.
You know, I had a story once. Speaking of criminal dockets, I was substituting for a long period of time, and it was with kids who are school dropouts and, you know,
Me.
social place. And all of a sudden, one of them said, "Mrs. Olson, I see you got a speeding ticket." And I said, "What?" And he says, "Yeah." And I said, "How do you know that?" And he says, "Oh, you can just look up all that stuff and the criminal activity online. So how much faster were you going than you should have?" And it was like, "Oh, cool."
Oh, wow. That's all you need because they're going to use it against you.
Exactly.
Anytime you tell them to follow the rules, like shush or, you know, don't disturb the class or chew gum or whatever. I don't know what they do nowadays. They look at their phones, I guess, nowadays. And they go, "Well, you don't follow the rules, huh?
Exactly.
Here, Miss Olson. Miss Felonious Speeder." Yeah, it's funny how kids are. But, you know, you probably lived through a really interesting time of teaching and probably saw a lot of challenges. Can you tease out maybe a little bit of some of the favorite stories in the book that you like? You know, not too much because people got to buy the book to really find out how they end and stuff. But
gosh, there's too many. Maybe this one. I was teaching a clothing class, 17 kids. 12 were regular kids. 5 were either foreign exchange students who didn't speak English or one guy. There was one guy in the class. And I think he enjoyed all the females around him. But anyhow, he was making a 5-piece camouflage outfit because he was a hunter. And he was doing a good job. But at one point, I saw him sitting down with his feet up on the counter. And I said, "Jaybird, what are you doing?" And he said, "I'm following the pattern suggestions." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Come see Mrs. Olson." I went over. Sure enough, there was a picture of a cup of coffee and said, "You've done well so far. Put up your feet and have a cup of coffee." Yeah. And I said, "Oh my goodness." And my name being Mrs. Olson, you probably aren't old enough to remember. There used to be a Mrs. Olson who advertised Folger's coffee. He looked at me and said, "Mrs. Olson, where's my coffee?"
Jimmy never has a second cup in elementary grade.
I said,
Remember that? I remember that. I must have seen that thing 50 trillion times.
yes.
That was one effective things. And then one day I tried Folgers. Ugh. I think
I didn't drink coffee either, so I was Mrs. Olson who didn't drink coffee.
well, yeah. That's funny. Mrs. Olson with the coffee. Yeah, it was always like, "Johnny never drinks my coffee. Asks for a second cup at home." It's like, way to just make a whole mess of women feel really guilty and shamed. Just go over coffee. I mean, what kind of advertising are we doing here, people? Of course, I don't know. Maybe they do worse now on makeup shows. Well, how were you raised? What inspired you to become a teacher? What was the motivation there?
My grandmother, who'd be at the late 1800s, she would have been a teacher. She was a math teacher, high school math teacher. My mother taught in country schools, so she had grades K through 8, all in one room, building, and had to teach all of them.
Holy crap.
My older sister, was a teacher, and so I grew up in a family of teachers. But I always wanted to teach. From the time I was little, Mom said I used to line my dolls up, and I had a chalkboard, and I'd make worksheets for them, and I'd make them behave. And, she said, who doesn't remember me wanting to do anything except that?
Yeah. They knew you really wanted to be a teacher when you rap them on the knuckles with your ruler.
Pull the hair out on some of them.
It's a bad sign. No, I think only nuns do that. So I don't know. I don't know why. Chris Voss is picking on nuns, and the Chris Voss nuns are nice people. I'm sure they're nice. I've heard that they're not too fun in school, but that's not my gig. So we're not going to worry about it. Did someone need to convince you to write your memoir, or was this COVID and
my grandson?
No, really?
Yeah, I used to follow him to basketball practice and football practice and stuff, and I would tell him stories in the car.
Mm-hmm.
He said, "Grandma, you should write a book." And I said, No, I could never write it. And he just kept at me. And then during the pandemic, he and I had the same schedule, same free time. And so he used to come in the room where I was subbing for 9 weeks. And we could take our masks off then because it was he and I. And he said, "I think you should write a book." Mm-hmm. And then when we were left out of the school and everybody had to stay home, that's when I did it.
Were you guys staying isolated, being folks who were a little older and, didn't want to pick up that COVID? I did. I stayed.
Did you? No, I was at school subbing, wearing a mask.
Were you really? Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I just stayed home as much as I could. It took me about 4 years to finally get COVID. And I'm glad I waited because it just about killed me. That thing was evil. And that was the 4-year watered down rendition of it. It was like just trying to drown me. It was like leaving a spigot on, flowing into your lungs 24/7, and rolling over in bed, and half my bed was covered in used sniffle sheets or tissue, and I just looked at it all and I went, "How is there that much fluid in my body still?" It was, but that's I was doing everything I could to keep it out of my lungs. I'm like, if this goes in my lungs, I'm going to be up on a vent. But I don't know, maybe it would have worked out better. It's 2026. Getting weird over here. So how long did it take you to write the book when you started?
It didn't take very long at all because I think most of the stories were already in my head, And so I just went and made a list, put the person's name with 1 or 2 words so I would remember the story. So it might be like Chris Crazy.
Bad student, Chris. Never does his homework.
And I just went through the list and just started typing. So it's, kind of random.
That's the problem I had with my first book. When I wrote it, I told all my stories. And it's really great because they were the stories I'd told all my life. And so it was really easy. I just told my stories. In the second book, I'm like, oh, crap, I put all the good stories in the first book. What I got now?
I feel you.
But, it's great. I don't know about you, though. I've forgotten all the stories that I put in the book. I used to walk around for 30 years telling people my stories. And then now I don't tell them those stories anymore. I tell them different stories, but newer stories, I guess. But anytime I say like, hey, what about that one story you had? I'm like, I don't know. It's in the book. Go buy it and read it. I don't even remember how it goes anymore. Because once I wrote it down, it's...
That was it. Yeah. Yes.
Anymore. There's a question here someone submitted. Was your venture into writing public knowledge? Not sure what that means.
No. I don't think anybody expected me to write a book.
Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't tell anybody I was.
Okay.
Well, it was a book.
Yeah.
I put something on Facebook, had a picture of the book, and said, "I'm so excited, I've published," and my friends and family were like, "What?" But boy, did that sell books.
Well, they wanted to buy them to find out if you said something about them bad.
Right.
That's why I make a monthly stipend payment to all of my teachers so that they never write a book. Because I don't want the truth getting out on me. What a horrible student I was. Fun fact, I don't know if you find this to be true from your end of it, but some of my favorite teachers, I figured out early on that for me to graduate high school, I needed 54 credits. Or no, hold on. I needed 26 credits to graduate high school. But if I took everything they gave me, it would be 54 credits.
Wow.
And I'm like, why am I doing double the work when I'm going to graduate? Now, I was a stupid kid from a poor family. I knew I was going to have a Pell Grant going to college. Harvard wasn't going to be letting me in anytime soon. Probably never should. I don't know. Maybe they should now. But so I went to my teachers that I didn't need the classes. And they started asking me, they're like, how come you're not doing anything? You're just kind of just sitting in the class. You're not doing anything. And I said, well, I figured this math out. and I'm going to flunk your class. And they're like, what? You're going to flunk my class? So they all decided, it was kind of interesting. Well, one decided, and then they used the other ones to talk him into it. They all kicked me out of the class. They go, we're just going to mark you here, and we don't want you in our class because it's just offensive for you, what you're doing. But I'm going to mark you here, and you can go do something for an hour and a half. It was a block time. But a lot of the teachers that I learned from that flunked me, I really respected and I liked. To this day, they've had an impact in my life. And I really enjoyed their classes more when I wasn't focused on learning all the stuff and doing the things. I think I actually learned more. So I don't know. I mean, like some of my teachers would probably think I hated them because I flunked their class. I actually really loved them and enjoyed them. And it was for their character and how they were such great at teaching and delivering. I don't know. Do you ever hear from any students like?
I do. I'm thinking of several. One time I was at the grocery store, and one of the students was with his mom, who I'd never met. And he said, Mom, I want you to meet Mrs. Olson. She's the best teacher I ever had. And I'm thinking, what? What's wrong?
I've seen my mom do that in the grocery store. So like, I never thought that kid would make.
I know.
Yeah. Why is he free running around? Shouldn't he be in prison somewhere?
You're right.
You see his parents? Anyway, my mom lived through the time where it used to be when, and when I was growing up, where if you did something bad in class as a kid, or talk back to the teacher or vice president or teacher. Yeah. And then somehow it changed over that period of her career to where now it was the teacher's fault that the kid was a horrible little demon.
Yes.
And meanwhile, you're looking at the parents going, yeah, I think I know where this fountain springs from.
I know. I believe 95% or more of what a student is because of his parents.
Yeah. It really became a thing where, teachers were expected to become the parent. Like, well, you need to take care of the kid and raise him. We're just dumping him at school and hoping, I don't know, he figures it all out. Meanwhile, we're going to go watch the Kardashians and I don't know.
Yeah. Those are the parents that hated snow days because then they had to take care.
Maybe they hate their kids. I don't know. I'll speak for myself, but it seems like it's a real absentee parenting thing. And then the whole onus to, when kids see that mom and dad are going to blame the teacher instead of giving them self-accountability. Right. It's kind of weird how the world worked out. Now we just have this whole world of victimhood competition, people who try and be the most persecuted. What kind of emotions did you feel as you wrote the stories?
Oh, I cried for some of the stories. I laughed with some of them. I had the whole gamut of emotions.
Not bad. Going through these times and putting all the details down.
And I've heard that from some people who ordered the book from me and then came back to tell me things about it. They said, I cried, I laughed, I wanted more. I was waiting for more of this story. And I was glad that they had the same emotions that I did. It was a good sign.
Mostly people who read my book say it gave them incredible cramps and indigestion and diarrhea. So same diarrhea for the punchline in there. Johnny Carson style joke. So the other question I had for you was, what kind of other responses have you had about the book? I guess people loved it. I mean, it's if I were you, I'd go find the graduation. How on Facebook you can find out who graduated when and what year, and then you can find all the people in that group. You should market that book to those people that were in your classes. And see, you should have thought of this 50 years ago. You should have kept like a list of everyone's email, right? And then that way, when you publish your book, you can send it out, and you can just send like, were you a bad student or a good student? Find out. Buy my book. Find out what Miss Olson thought of you all along. And maybe here's an idea for a follow-up book. You can interview the bad kids that you thought would never make it, and maybe they did something good with their life like I did. They can. I'm just assuming I did. The jury's still out. I guess we got to see how the movie ends. But basically, you could be like, and it could be a show called "How the Hell Did You Save Yourself?" Something like that, and you just interview them like, "How did you go from that little kid who was, ADD, like BOCD, and, banging his knees on the desk. And I was one of those drummer kids. You ever one of those desk drummers in your class?
My son was one.
Was he? I used to drive my teachers mental with it. And I have severe ADHD still to this point. And, it's, my teachers would, I think my psychology teacher wanted to cut off my hands or something. I would make him angry. I didn't mean to. I would just be bored, thinking about 50 million things at once. And I think he wanted me. He probably wanted me in a straitjacket during his hour and a half of class. But I did I have any bad teachers? Oh, I had one bad teacher. Yeah, I think I had one bad teacher. He was not a nice feller. I think there was another guy. Did you ever have like any of those? We used to have this one teacher in junior high who had a big paddle board with holes drilled through it. Do you
never had one like that?
Well, you were a nice teacher, man. Yeah, it worked for him for, I don't know, about a decade or so. And then one day he broke some kid's hand slamming it down on the table, and the hand moved, and that was the end of his career. But, it's great that you were able to teach without violence, threats of violence.
I remember one time some student said to the principal, I behave in her class because all she has to do is look at us. Mm-hmm. Say a thing, just look at us. Oh, no, we need to shape up. Never had to raise my voice.
Give him that look. I used to do that with a teenager. I pseudo stepdad once. I just give him this look like, did that really come out of your mouth?
Yeah.
You want to think about that? And they would have this look on their face like, did I say that? Because they're just figuring themselves out as teenagers. They say all sorts of stupid shit. And then half the time, if they're good kids, they look at them, you kind of point it out, and they're like, yeah, I just still trying to figure this out. So
I had one kid when I was subbing at the middle school level. He came in, he started walking on top of the desks.
Really?
Where people's books are supposed to be, and just kind of throwing stuff around. And I said, get out. Oh. What do you mean? I said, get out. Mm-hmm. And where am I supposed to go? I said, I don't care. Just get out. He said, you don't want to be here, so I don't want you here. Yeah. So he left, and I found out later he sat right outside the door, never said a thing. But after the class, half of the kids went by and said, thank you, Mrs. Olson. Oh. So they wanted some order.
Mm. Sometimes, I learned that with my huskies. Sometimes the best punishment a mom husky or dog will do to her puppy is they'll kind of alienate them for a little bit and ignore them. And that's the worst thing for a little puppy, but that's how they learn sometimes. Yes. So, that's probably better than the paddle. Maybe it's a lesson you remember that, if you don't behave well in society and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You said you did a lot of years or decades as I can't remember which, as a substitute teacher. Sometimes kids really like to give substitutes a hard time or play games with them. How'd you deal with that?
They try. Because I'm a storyteller, I even collected a book of jokes, story jokes. And I had them labeled in my book like, this is for math class, this is for English, this is for history. And I always started the classroom with a short story. I got their attention. They saw that I was, a fun person. Mm-hmm. I never had trouble subbing.
You just took right over and said, here, I'm leading. Yeah. Follow me.
Next time I'd be in one of the classes, do you have a story to tell? Mm-hmm. So, I know they appreciated it. Yeah.
That's really what we use stories for education. I call it the owner's manual to life. We use stories to entertain. And that's, if you can entertain a small room of rambunctious kids who are trapped in there between resources, especially the boys,
yes.
It's fun. But yeah, it's I can still remember, I wish I could remember their names, but I can remember all their faces. I know who they were, so-and-so in psychology, so-and-so in my English class. And, there were people that had an indelible effect on me because of their skill as a teacher, but also their character. Really? There were some teachers I got on the bad side with because I was a bad kid, and sometimes I get caught with my girlfriend at the auditorium by my theater teacher, and he used to get really angry about it. But You get caught there too many times, you get really angry. But I still had a lot of respect for him as a teacher. I realized there was a difference between why I was being punished, and I knew what I was doing was against his rules. But my girlfriend was hotter than his wife. So no, I'm just kidding. I'm just being a shit. No, but it's funny. There's a lot of teachers that probably if I met them today, they'd be like, "Yeah, I didn't like you as a kid, and you were an awful kid." And I'd be like, I know that. I know you thought that because I was an awful kid, but I still really respected you, and you made a difference in my life. There are times that I think about the difference you made in my life. So it's kind of interesting. I mean, teachers have such a way of indelibly imprinting at a very young age to people, and they change the world. I mean, there's so many people that have great stories about teachers that changed the world, that impacted them. There's some teachers that are saving a life because the child doesn't eat at home. There's abuse at home. There's issues and stuff. And, teachers just do the greatest thing. I think we need to invest more in teachers and quit buying bombs and F-16s, but that's just me, I guess.
I agree with you.
Yeah, teachers shouldn't have to do a yard sale, school drive, selling chocolates to get it.
We'll say that we shouldn't have bake sales too.
Yeah. I remember one time I called my mom. I've owned companies all my life, so I think in a business expenses sort of way. And I called my mom, and she's like, "Yeah, I just came home from the craft store, spent $250 there. I got this really cool setup I'm going to build for my students." She did elementary school, and I remember saying to her, I go, "Well, it's good they let you expense that." And she goes, "No, I don't get reimbursed for that. It's out of my pocket." I'm like, "Well, what?" And yeah, I mean, that's something that is just a shame that we don't take better care of teachers and students. And, I watched her over the time that she was a teacher where they were doubling her class size and then making the room smaller. And
yep. Yes.
And yeah. So anything more maybe I should ask you about the book to tease it out before we go?
I don't know what it would be.
Well, that must mean why we got all the questions out. And thanks, William. Great man, great voice.
This is the book.
And William, grab her book as well. You can order it on Amazon. There'll be a link on the show after the show. So thank you very much, Madelyn, for coming to the show. We really appreciate it. Give us any .coms and social media. You want people to look you up to get to know you better and follow up your future books.
I just Facebook is all I'm on.
Well, thank you very much, Madelyn.
I advertised your show on Facebook this morning saying that I was going to be on this afternoon. And you can't believe the number of people that were excited for me. And
awesome sauce.
Just be yourself and you'll be fine. And I mean, or your name is out there.
We try and there's a few people. We've got millions of downloads. So we've been doing this for a little while, like 1 or 2 episodes or something, or 1,700. Well, thank you, Madelyn. It's been an honor to have you. And I'm a big fan of teachers, so I'm glad we did get you on the show. Folks, pick up her book wherever fine books are sold. Stories After School, out April 7th, 2021, and watch for future stuff. Hopefully we'll get more stories out of Madelyn. And maybe I think you should just do a book called The Bad Kids Exposed. Make it racy, kind of give it that link bait sort of title, or I pull the curtain back from all the bad kids. And then what you do is before you publish, you call the bad kids and go, "Hey, I have your story here. And how much you want to pay me not to publish it?"
Unfortunately, it'd be a very thin book.
Oh, well, I think you're a great teacher. I mean, you must have inspired a lot of people. Usually my bad are teachers that we'd have all the bad stories because you never wanted to be nice to them because they're mean. I remember my driver's license teacher was mean. Like, he just yelled and barked us the first day. He even told us we were never going to pass the thing. He was like a drill sergeant. I was like, "I'm not going to pass my driver's license thing then. Screw you." And I was the one that got screwed. So yeah.
The worst teacher I ever had was my student teaching supervisor. I learned how not to teach.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So it was a good thing, that advisor, or a bad thing?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably it was good. She showed me how I did not want to be with students.
Oh, by her example? Is that what you mean?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I've had that happen where people teach me what not to do by antithesis or what to do by their antithesis of their bad behavior. So that's why, follow the golden rule. Anyway, thank you very much, Madelyn. Thanks for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1 on the TikTok, any and all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.
You'll be listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast to improve your brain and your life. Or doing too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, you're irresistible, than human regularly moderated amounts. He's the diverse brain lead.
Yes.